You ever get that eerie feeling when you step into a place and know something's wrong? That's what hit me the first night I started my new job at Calder & Sons Antiques, a cramped, musty little shop tucked on the corner of a fog-choked street in coastal Maine. The sign out front creaked on rusted chains, and the windows were so streaked with age they looked like they wept tears of grime. Still, I needed the job. I'd lost my last one after a minor incident with my manager. It wasn't anything serious, but in a small town, word travels fast. So when I saw the job posting at Calder & Sons, night clerk needed, reliable only, I jumped at it. I showed up at 9 p.m. sharp like the ad instructed. The shop was locked, but an old man appeared from the alley beside the building, as if he'd been waiting in the shadows for me. "Name?" he croaked. He looked like someone who'd outlived everyone he cared about, and maybe even enjoyed it. "Mark," I said, trying to sound confident. He didn't offer a handshake. "Follow." He led me inside through a side door and into a dim showroom cluttered with antiques from every era: Victorian lamps, old typewriters, taxidermied animals, shelves of dolls that watched me with glassy stares. He handed me a large leather-bound ledger. Dust puffed from it when I opened it. "These are the rules. Read them. Obey them." "Rules?" I laughed, flipping through the yellowed pages filled with inked lines and scribbled margins. "Like what? Don't touch the cursed mirror?" The old man didn't smile. "This is not a joke. Break the rules, and you break yourself." He left without another word, the door shutting with a finality that made the whole building seem to exhale. Rules for night staff at Calder & Sons Antiques. 1. Clock in by 9:01 p.m. If you are late, do not enter. Go home. Do not look inside the windows. 2. Between 9:15 and 9:30 p.m., the phonograph will play on its own. Do not stop it. Do not listen closely to the lyrics. Cover your ears if necessary. 3. At 10 p.m., the door to the locked room may rattle. Do not open it. Do not acknowledge the whispers. 4. If the bronze knight turns to face you, bow back. If you do not, leave the store immediately and do not return. 5. At 12 a.m. sharp, take inventory of the dolls. If one is missing, find it before 12:15 a.m. If you cannot find it, hide. 6. Never speak to the woman in the red shawl. She is not real, but she will think she is. 7. At 2 a.m., clean the mirror at the back of the store. Use the vinegar solution provided. Do not look at your reflection while cleaning. 8. At 3:33 a.m., you may hear someone whisper your name. You must whisper a different name back. Any name, just not your own. 9. Leave by 5 a.m. Never stay past 5:01. Never. I chuckled at first. It felt like someone's idea of a prank or a marketing gimmick. An immersive antique store horror experience or some hipster nonsense. But then the phonograph started to play. It was 9:16 p.m. The sound was scratchy, but not mechanical. It was melodic. A haunting lullaby with no words, just notes stirred something heavy in my chest. I felt a strange pressure behind my eyes, like the music was vibrating somewhere inside me. It whispered to parts of me I didn't know existed. I slammed the ledger shut and covered my ears. The music hummed through my hands. It stopped at 9:30 sharp. Silence fell like a curtain. The silence felt wrong, like something was still in the room with me, breathing, waiting. That's when I heard the rattling. I turned to the hallway where the locked room was. The door at the far end shook gently, as though someone was testing the handle from the other side. Tap, tap, tap. Then whispers, faint, female. It sounded like a lullaby, the same tune from the phonograph. I backed away slowly. My breath caught in my throat as I remembered Rule 3. Do not acknowledge the whispers. So I didn't. I forced myself to turn and walk away, even as the whispers rose in pitch and volume. I sat behind the counter, fingers white around the ledger, heart racing like I just outrun death. At 10:07 p.m., I saw it. The bronze knight near the fireplace, an ornate 6-foot-tall suit of armor, had moved. I swear on everything, when I'd come in, it was facing the fireplace. Now it was staring straight at me. My blood turned to ice. Rule 4, if the bronze knight turns to face you, bow back. So I did. I stood, heart pounding, and gave a stiff bow. It felt ridiculous. The knight didn't move, but I swear I heard a low metallic groan, like something in its joints settled back into place. Midnight approached. The air grew heavy, thick like syrup. I stood in front of the doll cabinet. There were exactly 13 porcelain dolls. I counted twice, 13, all staring with unblinking eyes. 12 a.m. ticked on the old grandfather clock behind me. I blinked. One of the dolls was missing. My heart dropped. I counted again. 12. The missing doll was the smallest. Blonde curls, blue dress, hand-stitched with tiny white gloves. I turned in circles, scanning the room. Every antique shelf, every table. 12:05, nothing. 12:10 a.m. I heard something. A soft like glass tapping wood. I turned toward the mirror at the back of the store. There she was. The doll sat propped in the corner of the floor-length mirror, her head tilted slightly, one eye cracked. I didn't remember placing her there. I moved toward her slowly and scooped her up. Her porcelain felt warm, damp. I didn't look into the mirror. I couldn't. My reflection was already fogged, but I swear something behind me moved when I bent down. I put doll back in the case. 12:15 a.m. ticked by. I exhaled. At 1:45 a.m., the woman appeared. She stood in the aisle between the Victorian wardrobes as if she'd always been there, thin and wrapped in a deep red shawl that covered most of her face. She turned toward me and began to walk, slowly barefoot, her steps silent. Rule 6, never speak to the woman in the red shawl. She is not real, but she will think she is. Hello, she whispered. It's cold in here, isn't it? I froze. She moved closer. I'm looking for my child. Have you seen her? I shook my head, said nothing. Her eyes darkened. I think you have. I think she likes you. She was within 5 feet of me. Her breath fogged the glass counter. Her hands trembled like dry leaves. I backed away, biting my tongue. Then she vanished, gone, like smoke in the wind. I collapsed into the chair behind the counter, drenched in sweat. At 2 a.m., I grabbed the vinegar spray and a rag and stood in front of the mirror again. My reflection looked strange, off. The smile I wasn't making stretched too wide. The eyes were too deep. I avoided its gaze, spraying quickly, wiping fast. A face emerged behind my shoulder. I didn't look. I kept scrubbing. I finished just as the grandfather clock ticked 2:05. At 3:33 a.m., I heard it. The voice came from the phonograph, even though it hadn't moved since 9:30. Mark, come here. It was soft, childlike. I gritted my teeth. I whispered Kevin. The voice paused, then silence. 4:50 a.m. The sky outside was still a bruised purple. I packed my things. The ledger was clutched under my arm. 4:59. I walked out, locking the door behind me. As I stepped into the cool morning fog, I looked up at the second-story window of the store. The red-shawled woman was watching. I didn't sleep after my first night at Calder and Sons. I tried. I drank 3 beers, lay on my back in bed, stared at the ceiling fan for hours. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the woman in the red shawl, the way she looked at me like she knew me, like she'd been waiting. Worse still, I kept hearing the music from the phonograph, soft and warbled like it came from under a lake. But I came back the next night. I needed the money. When I arrived at 9 p.m. sharp, the old man wasn't there. Instead, the front door was already unlocked. The bell above it jingled lazily as I entered. That was the first thing wrong. The second? The ledger wasn't behind the counter. I looked around the room. Everything else seemed in place. The doll sat still. The bronze knight faced the fireplace again, and the mirror glared at the far wall. But the absence of that book unsettled me more than I expected. Those bizarre, creepy rules, they were the only things between me and the chaos in that store. And now they were gone, or so I thought. At 9:05 p.m., the phonograph began playing early. That melody, I'll never forget it, even if I wanted to. It was slower this time, sadder. It had a pulse, like a heartbeat. I covered my ears, even though it didn't help much. It played until exactly 9:15 p.m., and then silence swept in like a vacuum. Then the whispering began again, behind the locked door at the end of the hall. Scratch, tap, whisper. But something was different this time. The voice didn't just whisper. It called. Let me out. My spine locked up. It was a child's voice. I'm scared. Please. It's dark. I can't breathe in here. The way it scraped against the door, the desperation in that tiny voice, it clawed at something deep in me. Something human. I took a step toward the door. My hand rose to the knob. Then I stopped. My fingers froze just an inch from the brass handle. Rule 3, do not open the locked room. Do not acknowledge the whispers. But there was no ledger tonight. And what if there was really a child inside? Mark, please, I'm so cold. That voice, it knew my name again. I backed away, slowly, deliberately. At 10 p.m., I noticed something new in the shop. A large oil painting had appeared on the eastern wall, above an armoire I hadn't even noticed before. I would have remembered this painting. It showed a man in Victorian clothes, black waistcoat, thin mustache, gloved hands. His eyes were jet black. No irises, no whites, just pits. The placard beneath read, Mr. Calder, 1876, proprietor and collector. There had never been a painting there before. I blinked, and his expression changed. It was so subtle I almost missed it. But the corner of his mouth, once curled in a mild smirk, now hung downward. His brows furrowed. I looked away. When I looked back, he was frowning even more. I moved to the back of the shop and refused to glance at the painting again. Midnight came. Time for the doll inventory. I counted slowly, deliberately. 13. All present. I breathed out, but not for long. One of the dolls moved. Not much. Just a tilt of the head, but enough to make my heart slam into my ribs. Its painted eyes had always faced forward. Now they followed me. I blinked again. Nothing changed. I turned to leave the case, and a loud clack came from behind me. The doll had fallen off its shelf. No wind, no vibrations. I picked it up with trembling hands. As I placed it back, I noticed something smeared across its porcelain cheek. Blood. A small brownish red smear. Just a drop, but fresh. I dropped the doll and stepped back. The air around me turned heavy again, like the store had noticed me. At 1 a.m., the temperature dropped. Frost bloomed on the inside of the windows. My breath fogged the air. That's when I saw her again. The woman in the red shawl. She stood next to the bronze knight. Her face was partially veiled by the shawl, but her lips curled into a patient smile. Mark, she whispered, you came back. You belong here. I said nothing. She extended a hand. I backed away. You left something behind last night, she said softly. I kept it warm. I didn't want to know what she meant. I turned and walked away quickly, refusing to run. I could feel her watching me the whole time. When I glanced back, she was gone. But the night had turned again. Facing me, I bowed. This time, I heard it whisper something back. At 2 a.m., I went to clean the mirror. I didn't want to. Every part of me screamed to stay away from it. But I knew the rules, whether they were written or not. I grabbed the vinegar bottle and rag and stepped into the back. The mirror surface was foggy and streaked. I sprayed it once. As I wiped, something caught my eye. In the reflection, the shop was full of people. Dozens of them, Victorian men and women in dusty formal wear, children in old sailor suits and frilly dresses. Some wore blood-stained clothes. Some were missing limbs. Their faces were pale and blurry, like old photographs melting in water. But when I turned around, the shop was empty. When I looked back in the mirror, one figure stood alone. Mr. Calder. His eyes were black voids. He smiled wide now, too wide. His teeth looked like broken piano keys. He raised one hand and pointed at me. Then he mouthed something. Open the door. I dropped the rag and bolted. The whisper came again. Mark, Mark, Mark. This time it came from inside the phonograph again, but also from behind the painting. Mark, I see you. You're part of the collection now. I whispered the first name that came to my head, Daniel. The whisper paused. Then, you're not Daniel. The room shook. The painting fell from the wall. Glass shattered everywhere. I approached slowly. Beneath the cracked frame, the canvas now bled black ink. The face of Mr. Calder was gone, replaced by mine. 4:30 a.m. I sat behind the counter, drained. The building was deathly still. Suddenly, the bell above the front door jingled. I hadn't heard it open. No footsteps, no voice, just jingling. Then a soft clack on the floor. I peeked over the counter. There was a package sitting by the door. A small, plain cardboard box with my name scrawled across the top in red ink. Mark. No postage, no label. I didn't touch it. Instead, I waited until 5 a.m. ticked on the grandfather clock. I sprinted outside, locking the door behind me. I didn't take the box with me. But as I turned to leave, I looked back once and saw the box had moved. Now it sat on the inside of the glass door, waiting. I almost didn't go back for the third night. I sat in my car for nearly 40 minutes, parked a block away from Calder and Sons, just staring at the silhouette of the store beneath the crooked gas lamp out front. But something pulled me. Not just the money, though God knows I needed it. It was that box, the one with my name written on it in red ink, the one that somehow appeared inside the store, even though no one had touched it. It was waiting for me. So I walked back. At 9 p.m. sharp, I stepped through the door. The bell above jingled like always, but this time something felt different. The air was heavier. The smell of old varnish and dust was drowned out by something more pungent, something sweet, almost like rotting flowers. I locked the door behind me, and there it was, the box, still sitting on the floor just inside the door, right where it shouldn't be. I stared at it for a long time. I wanted to toss it into the furnace in the back room, but curiosity, it's a disease in places like this. I picked it up. It was lighter than I expected. I turned it in my hands. No tape, no seal. Just the word, Mark, still written in red, but now the ink was dripping, like it was fresh. I opened it. Inside was a single item, a small, cracked pocket watch. It was tarnished silver, the chain broken, the glass smudged. But the second I touched it, the ticking started. Tick, tick, tick. The hands didn't move, but the ticking grew louder. Too loud. Suddenly I was somewhere else. I stood in the store, but it was no longer night. Sunlight streamed through the windows. The air smelled of polish and pipe smoke. The shelves were clean, shining. Dolls sat upright and pleasant. The phonograph wasn't warbled. It was playing a crisp classical waltz. Behind the counter stood Mr. Calder, alive, human, younger. He turned to me, smiled, and said, "You're early, Mark." I couldn't speak. I just stared. He waved me over like we were friends. But then I saw the mirror. It no longer reflected the present. In it, I saw the real store, the one I had just come from. Dim, decaying. And in that reflection, I saw myself holding the pocket watch. Staring, hollow-eyed, not moving, frozen. I dropped the watch, and in an instant, I was back. The box was empty now. The watch was gone. I stumbled backward and knocked over a wooden coat rack. It hit the floor with a crash, and I heard footsteps, running. From the back. They circled the aisles like something playing tag. I grabbed the ledger off the counter. It was back tonight. New pages had been added. Fresh ink. Wednesday night addendum emergency protocols. 1. If the box with your name appears, do not open it. 2. If you already opened it, do not acknowledge what you see. 3. If you time slip, break contact. Drop the object immediately. 4. At 2:45 a.m., cover all mirrors. 5. If Mr. Calder speaks to you directly, do not answer. 6. If you hear yourself crying from the locked room, leave immediately. My blood turned to ice. I made it until midnight without anything else happening. I counted the dolls again, 13. But this time, one was different. It had my face. Porcelain white, but unmistakably me. Eyes half closed, lips parted slightly. A tiny crack ran from my left eye down to my cheek. I staggered back, and the other dolls turned their heads toward me in unison. Their glass eyes glinted. I muttered, "Not tonight." Then the phonograph skipped. It had never done that before. A long, slow screech like a needle dragged across rust. Then silence. Then a sound I can only describe as a heartbeat, coming from the record itself. I leaned in close. The phonograph whispered, "He's painting you next." At 2 a.m., I remembered the new rule. Cover all mirrors by 2:45 a.m. I grabbed an old bedsheet from the linen display and headed to the back room. The mirror already had fog on it, but not from the room. The glass fogged from the inside. Handprints appeared, small and frantic, slapping the inside of the mirror like someone was trapped inside it. I stared in horror. A boy, 8, maybe 9 years old, pale red hair. He was screaming silently behind the glass. Then I realized something. He looked like me when I was a kid. The mirror started to rattle. I threw the sheet over it and ran. At 3 a.m., the bronze knight moved again. Not just turned, walked. I heard the clang of metal boots from the far end of the showroom. He stood in front of the locked door now, sword raised, defending it. Something inside the room banged. Once, twice. Then that childlike voice came again. "No more games, Mark. Let me out. You owe me." The knight raised his blade and pointed it at me. Was he protecting me or warning me? I whispered, "I didn't trap you." The voice inside replied, "But you will." The painting reappeared. Same frame, same wall. But now it was half filled. The left side showed Mr. D. Calder looking triumphant with his arm around a new figure, me. But the right half was unfinished. just swirling shadows where my body should be. I backed away, heart racing, when a shadow moved across the canvas. It reached toward me, literally. A painted hand pressed through the surface, trying to break into the room. I heard a voice behind me whisper, "Sit, pose, let him finish you." I turned. The red-shawled woman stood there again, closer this time. I saw her face. It was the doll's face, porcelain, cracked, hollow, and she was smiling. I stood in the center of the store, every exit blocked. The front door was bricked over. The back hallway had no end. I walked for 10 minutes, and it just kept stretching. I dropped to the floor, exhausted. The grandfather clock struck 5, and everything froze. No movement, no sound. Then the lights went out, total blackness, and a single spotlight appeared over the phonograph. It began playing. A woman's voice sang, "Time bends for the willing. The past is a curse. Join the collection, or things will get worse." I closed my eyes and screamed. When I opened them, I was outside, the store behind me, the sun rising. But the box is in my apartment now, sitting on my kitchen table. This time, the red ink says, "Open again, finish what you started." And I swear, I can hear ticking coming from inside. The box hasn't stopped ticking. I didn't touch it, didn't go near it, but every minute it ticks louder, like it's counting down to something. I wrapped it in 2 shirts, stuffed it in a drawer, and shoved it under my bed. Didn't help. The ticking came from inside my head now. But worst of all, when I woke up this morning, the word Calder was scrawled across my bathroom mirror in that same bleeding red ink. I live alone? I should have quit. Instead, I showed up for work again. Night 4. Tonight, the sky was darker. No moon, no stars. Clouds sat like bruises above the street lamp out front, which flickered like it was trying to decide if it wanted to die. When I turned the corner, Calder & Sons loomed taller than usual. No joke. It looked like it had grown. I counted the windows. 5 last night. Tonight, there were 7. The bricks looked wet, like the building had been sweating. I unlocked the door, heart pounding, and stepped inside. The ledger was already open on the counter, waiting. New rules had been added. Thursday night emergency notes, absolute compliance required. 1, do not answer the phone, no matter how many times it rings. 2, if your reflection begins moving on its own, smile and walk away. 3, if the painting is blank, your time is up. 4, Mr. Calder may offer you a deal tonight. Decline it politely. 5, the dolls will test you. 6, if your double arrives, leave immediately. 9:30 p.m. The phone rang, a black rotary model, dusty, probably from the 1940s. I didn't even know it worked. It sat on the wall behind the counter. Just started ringing. Loud, jarring, insistent. Ring, ring. I let it go to 10, then 20. It rang 33 times before it stopped. The silence after was worse. 10 seconds later, the phonograph began to play again, but this time it was my voice on the record. I was whispering, "Pick up the phone, Mark. She's still alive." I didn't. 10 p.m. I passed the mirror and I froze. My reflection stayed in place, but I had stopped walking. It hadn't. It kept moving. Then it turned around, looked over its shoulder, and winked at me. I backed away slowly, clutching the vinegar bottle in one hand like it would do anything. Then the reflection mouthed, "You're not the original." 11 p.m. I heard the sound of glass shattering in the far room. I found the source quickly, the painting. It was blank, just a smear of gray where Mr. Calder and I had been. I remembered the new rule. If the painting is blank, your time is up. I backed away, muttering, "Not yet, not yet." Then something moved in the frame. I leaned in and saw my apartment. The inside of it, my bedroom, my bed, the box. The painting was watching me from the other side. And just as I turned to leave, I saw a second version of me in the frame, standing beside my bed, holding the box, grinning ear to ear. Midnight. I made my rounds and counted the dolls. Again 13. But this time, each had taken a different pose. The one with my face was holding something, the pocket watch from the box. Its hands were moving now. The ticking echoed through the room. Tick, tick, tick. Then the dolls began to whisper in unison. "Let him paint you. Let him finish. You are incomplete." I turned and ran into the hallway, breathing hard, but it stretched again, longer than before. The door at the end was wide open now, and a child stood in the center. A pale boy, red-haired, freckles, barefoot. He looked up at me and whispered, "You left me. I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. He walked forward slowly and said, "He gave me your name." I backed away. He stopped and said, "We can still switch. If you take my place, I can go home, please." His eyes weren't sad, they were hungry. Then the voice came from behind me. Mr. Calder, smiling, alive, leaning against the hallway wall in a velvet suit. He tipped his hat. "Evening, Mark. Thought I might offer you a deal tonight." I remembered the rule. Decline politely. So I said, "No, thank you, Mr. Calder. Yes, I'm happy with my current arrangement." He frowned slightly, then smiled wider. "Well then," he said, "we'll just wait. We're patient collectors here." He turned to the boy. "Back to your room." The child growled, literally growled, and dissolved into smoke. Mr. Calder tipped his hat again and vanished behind the grandfather clock. 2 a.m. I passed the mirror again. Now it was empty. No reflection, just blackness. Then it flickered like a screen, and my reflection returned. But it wasn't me. It was my double, standing in the same pose, but smiling. Slowly, deliberately, he raised a hand and pointed behind me. I turned, and he stood there in the flesh, wearing my face, my shirt. But his eyes were wrong. Too wide, too white. He said, "You've made it 4 nights. That's rare, but I'm better." I ran. I hid behind the shelves, holding a rusted bayonet from the Civil War display. The store was alive now. Shelves breathing, carpet twitching. The mirror shrieked and shattered, footsteps everywhere. And the double? He was hunting me, calling out in my voice, "I just want to understand you, Mark. Just want to see how much you'll bleed." I clutched the bayonet and waited. Then the ledger began bleeding. Literal blood seeping from the spine, forming letters on the counter. It read, "You broke the rules. 3 a.m. A figure stepped through the front wall of the shop like mist. Tall, bone thin, wearing a museum curator's outfit stitched with pages. It was Calder's true form. No eyes, mouth stitched shut. But a voice poured from the seams of his body. "Join the collection." The painting on the wall showed me again, this time screaming. My arms were outstretched, mouth wide, eyes black. Blood poured from the canvas. Then the phonograph began playing my heartbeat. 4:59 a.m. I made it to the front door. It was open this time, just hanging there, leading into total darkness. I heard whispering behind me, dozens of voices. Then Mr. Calder spoke once more. "We'll see you again tomorrow, Mark, whether you want us or not." I stepped outside, collapsed in the street, looked up. There was a second moon above the store, blood red, smiling. When I got home, the ticking box was gone, but something was inside my mirror, and it was watching me. I haven't slept. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him, my double, smiling with my teeth, wearing my skin, talking to my neighbors, to my landlord, to my sister on the phone, like he is me. But I know he isn't. And I'm the only one who sees it. They all think I'm the one who changed. Because last night I saw what he did. He stepped into my life, and now he won't give it back. When I woke up today, there was a ledger page under my front door. Same parchment paper, same red ink. It read, "Tonight's shift begins early. You are expected by 7 p.m. Bring the box." I didn't have the box. It disappeared. So I returned to Calder & Sons with nothing but trembling hands and the bayonet I'd kept hidden in my coat since the last shift. When I arrived, the antique store was already unlocked. The door creaked open with a groan like a dying throat. The store lights were dimmer than ever, and the walls, they were breathing. Yes, breathing. Rising and falling like lungs inhaling centuries of dust. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. The bell didn't ring, just a whisper. "Too late to clock out, Mark." 7:15 p.m. The ledger was gone from the counter. In its place was a stack of photographs, all black and white. Each one showed me standing in the store behind the counter, adjusting items, sweeping, flipping the closed sign. But I hadn't done any of that because I was never in the photos. My double was. In every photo, he looked more confident, more real, like I was fading and he was sharpening. And then I saw the last picture, a selfie taken in my apartment on my phone with my cat in his lap. He'd even stolen my name. 8 p.m. The dolls had changed again. 13 last night. Now, 12. The one with my face was missing. In its place was a blank porcelain head, eyes unpainted, mouth sealed shut, and next to it was a new doll. This one had his face, my double, smiling, wearing the same clothes I was wearing right now. The dolls whispered as I passed. One of you must break. One of you must crack. Only one mark leaves. The other goes in the glass. The mirrors were already covered, all except one. The largest one, gilt-framed Victorian, warped at the edges, stood uncovered in the back room. The surface was water now, rippling. I saw my reflection, but I wasn't alone. My double stood behind me, closer than ever. I spun around, no one there. But in the mirror, he whispered in my ear, "You're not even a memory anymore. You're just the echo of a man I replaced." Then he reached out and pulled me into the mirror. I hit the floor hard. When I looked up, I was inside the store still, but mirrored. Everything reversed, backwards, wrong. The dolls were upside down. The clocks all ran backward. The painting on the wall showed a man peeling his own face off, stroke by stroke, as Calder painted him with a brush made of teeth. And then I saw the sign, "Welcome to the Backshift." A distorted version of the ledger lay open on the counter. Scrawled in blood and chalk, it read, "Here you will remain until your real self dies or returns. Choose quickly. The store only allows one of you to remain complete." 9:30 p.m. I ran. Down mirrored halls, through warped rooms. Everything was reversed. Every rule, every light, every sound. The phonograph played a child's laughter in reverse. The bronze knight stood, melted, collapsed in a puddle of armor that hissed whenever I passed. And then I saw it, a second mirror, standing in the center of a room lined with antique clocks, and on the other side, my apartment. I saw myself, no, him, on my couch, drinking my coffee, texting my contacts, my life, my world. He looked up at me and smiled through the glass, raised his cup in a toast, then turned the mirror around. 10 p.m. I sat in the center of the store. The lights flickered like dying stars. The dolls all now wore my face, every single one, smiling, bleeding, laughing. And from behind the counter, I heard the rustling of cloth and flesh. Mr. Calder stepped forward again, only this time he was incomplete, missing one eye, his arms stitched with pages torn from the ledger, his mouth sewn shut, yet still speaking through the store itself. His voice echoed in every object, every wall, every thought. "You have lingered too long. He has become the original. You are only the reflection." Then he reached out and touched my chest, and my skin began to crack like porcelain. The clock struck 11, and the store shattered like glass. I was back in my body, back in the real store, alone, but something was wrong. Everything was too still. No ticking, no breathing walls, no whispering dolls. Then I looked at my hands. Porcelain. My fingers were white, delicate, seamed. I rushed to the mirror and saw the doll's face staring back. I was the new doll, trapped, behind the glass, watching him live my life. 11:59 p.m., 1 minute to midnight. The lights came on again. The phonograph played the store's lullaby. The painting returned, this time finished. Mr. Calder stood center frame, grinning like a proud artist. At his side, two figures. One, my double, flawless, whole. The other, a broken, doll-like version of me, sitting on a shelf, just like the others. And the plaque beneath it read, "Mark the Echo, 12 a.m. The front door opened on its own, and I heard Calder's voice one final time. "Shift complete. See you tomorrow, Echo." They say ghosts are trapped souls, lost, confused, unaware they've died. If that's true, then I'm not just a ghost. I'm a replica, a memory with teeth, a man made of ceramic and regret. I've lost track of how many nights it's been since that last shift. I woke up this morning in his bed, not mine. Same sheets, same apartment, same morning light through the same cracked blinds. But I'm not him. I remember being pulled into the mirror. I remember the dolls, the bleeding ledger, the ticking box that counted my time like a fuse. I remember Calder's voice, "Only one mark leaves." So why am I here? Why am I back? I checked my face in the mirror. Looked normal, too normal. No cracks, no seams, just me. But something was missing. I didn't blink. Literally, my reflection just stared back, motionless, even when I turned my head. Then it smiled, just a little. I didn't. I backed away slowly, heart hammering. When I blinked, the mirror stayed open for half a second too long. I swear it watched me leave. I called my sister. She didn't recognize my voice. Called me Evan. I said, "It's Mark, your brother." She hung up, then blocked my number. I looked at my phone's photo gallery. All my memories, vacations, birthdays, my old cat Luna, gone. In their place were grainy, washed-out photos of the antique store, shelves, mirrors, one picture of a cracked porcelain face smiling beneath glass. The file name was me.jh. I went back to Calder and Sons. In daylight, it was just a board shop on a forgotten street. No signs, no lights. I knocked, no answer. So I waited until sunset. 7 p.m. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. Inside, everything was as it used to be. The velvet-lined counters, the moth-bitten rugs, the stale air of memory and mildew. But the walls were different now, covered in portraits. Every one of me, some smiling, some screaming, some halfway turned into dolls. One was of me in the act of stabbing myself with the bayonet. Another, me curled in fetal position inside the box. A whisper drifted through the phonograph. "Welcome back, Mark," or "What's left of you?" There was no ledger on the counter. Instead, a mirror sat there, framed in gold, clean, cold. My reflection stared back, but this time it spoke. "You weren't supposed to come back. You weren't supposed to remember." I asked it, trembling. "What am I?" It laughed. My laugh, hollow and tired. "You're the spare." The mirror cracked slightly, splitting my face down the middle. I wandered deeper into the store, past the grandfather clock that never ticked, into rooms that shouldn't exist. I found shelves of boxes, all ticking, each labeled with a name and a date, dozens, hundreds, some with names scratched out, some still bleeding. Then I found mine. Mark Backshift Echo Class. Under it a note, shelf ready, fragile, prone to questioning. That's when I understood. I'm not the original. I'm a backshift replacement, a perfect mimic built to fill the space the real Mark left behind, until I cracked, until I remembered. 10 p.m. I heard someone enter the store, footsteps, confident, real. I turned the corner and froze. It was him, Mark, the real one, or maybe the new version. He looked confused, just like I was that first night. He held the ledger in his hands. It was bleeding. I whispered, "Don't read it. Don't follow the rules." But he didn't hear me. He walked right past me like I wasn't even there, because I'm not anymore. 11:45 p.m. I returned to the painting. Tonight it was blank again. But slowly, lines began to draw themselves. A hand, an eye, a cracked face, mine. Then behind me, Calder stepped out of the frame. No hat, no eyes. His stitched mouth opened for the first time, and he whispered directly into my skull. "You were never meant to escape. You are archive. You are artifact. You are ours." He reached into the canvas and pulled me in. I woke up inside the painting, literally inside it. My hands pressed against oil, my voice muffled behind brushstrokes. I watched the store from inside the frame now. I saw the new Mark walk by. He didn't look up, didn't see me screaming from the portrait. He was already one of them, already reading the rules, already hearing the ticking, already part of the shift. Now every night, I watch the next poor soul arrive. Some last one night, some survive all 6, but eventually they all break, and I paint them, one by one, faces twisted in fear or madness or acceptance. Because Mr. Calder, he needs a collection, and someone has to finish the canvas. That someone is me. So if you're reading this, if you ever pass by a boarded-up antique store in a quiet Maine town, if the door creaks open and the bell whispers your name, don't go in. And if you do, don't read the rules. Because once you do, you're already part of the shift, and you won't even remember who you were before. Just a reflection, just an echo, just another face behind glass. Forever.